Hello, guys. We are the Iron Disciples. In this podcast, we talk about bodybuilding, dating, finances, exploring these topics from a biblical standpoint, how to do these things as Christian men. Hello.
Hello and good afternoon.
Welcome back.
Yes.
So, guys, I think that our opening always says we talk about fitness at some point. We should probably talk about it today, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Finally broach the subject of guns. Yeah. Down with that. All right. Anybody want to open up?
I will.
Okay.
Lord Jesus, thank you so much for bringing us together and giving us the opportunity to explore these topics, to deep dive into your word, and to relate to to this world and the brothers inside of it and all the amazing disciplines that are taken to extremely high levels. And we want to give respect to that today and to your creation and all these gifts you've given us and explore this fitness lifestyle and share a little bit about ourselves, Lord. Thank you for this opportunity. All glory to you, Jesus. In Christ's name, amen.
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 All right. So we've all had an obsession with lifting weights and body sculpting. Where did that begin for you, Mike?
Where did it begin for me? Well, it's a common, I guess, we talk about the success of the Iron Disciples, and I think a big reason why we're such a tight-knit group is not only do we have Jesus at the center, but a good portion of us have the love of fitness at the center.
It's like our background culture.
Yeah, it is definitely the background. Most of us met at the gym. Probably all of most. Yeah,
I'd say, yeah, besides like Phil bringing some of his friends, but by virtue of that interaction.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's one reason why we're talking about this today is to just, start opening the door to that conversation, that part about the group and why it's important to us. And so a little bit of my background. If you looked at me 6-7 years ago, you'd be like, this guy is into fitness. So I think you guys have probably been in it you've been in the fitness world forever, kind of, haven't you?
Sort of here and there. I wouldn't say the fitness world. I'd say we got serious about it around 26 in terms of joining a gym.
Okay.
Well, before that, it started off with seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And seeing those biceps in the movies and seeing very strong physical body of a male and how powerful and how awesome it looks. Because it looks really great. Because, we liked superheroes growing up, and there's something about being jacked and having that physical power and the way it looked that was very interesting to us. So, we started doing, curls with milk jugs, 4th grade, before school. We'd do, sets, get swole, and, just together. And then when we got 17... we went to church and there's a lot of guys that were lifting and they looked great. And I remember they were wrestling at a retreat, and John and I were just woodshitting guitar, and we kind of dropped off of fitness and stuff as much as we used to, because we used to do curls and that was pretty much it.
So you started at the gym then later than me. So for you 7 years ago?
Well, when we were 17, we started, we got a bench set and full on Olympic. We had
before that we actually had, so even before that, remember I meant 26 when we became devoted, really, really serious. But we were attending a church, and this was probably around 6th grade, and one of the guys there was moving his stuff, and he had a storage locker. And for some reason, he asked us, do you guys want this old machine I have? It's got some cables. It's kind of like one of those machines where there's a bunch of weights in the middle and a few attachment places just kind of surrounding the weights.
Like a pec deck, a lat pull down, and a leg extension.
Really basic.
One
and he's like, you guys can have it. You guys come grab it. You guys can have it. So we set that in the Florida room of our house, and it was not air conditioned. We used to have workout sessions in there during our summer.
Yeah.
And after school, we'd go out there and we'd have these little lists of stuff we would do. It was the highest volume crap in the world.
Max
we'd do
it out
50 or 60 reps and just
pure death.
Yeah. It was
way deep into failure.
Yeah.
And then we started playing guitar, and then we got back into it because that set was quickly eclipsed by and we got sheer power. We moved, so we didn't have a place to put it. And then we rented the efficiency behind our our mom and dad's place. We had room now, and John was like, "There's this black dude at my dad's work, and my dad worked at this place. It was a storage facility, and there's all kinds of businesses in the back, paint shops, wood shops, every kind of thing you can think of. There's this dude who was jacked. He must have been like 55 years old or 60.
He looked it. Like
Dude,
his face was super weathered,
but his body
was
insane. Like it was crazy.
And
John,
he'd be sitting there working out in front of his little storage locker, just
in the Florida sun,
swole,
just
dude.
like dying in the heat, sweating his balls
And
off.
he had like these ape hangers. Like he was one of those guys with like kind of narrow shoulders and just these giant arms.
humongous.
They were as big as his torso. It was like how it was just inspiring. You want to go up as a kid. You were interested in this.
Some of the best arm genetics I think I've ever seen.
Oh my
in
God!
life.
You're just like, how's that guy? I want a little bit of those arms.
And he was like a crackhead, dude.
Yeah.
And he took horrible care of himself, but he was dedicated to lifting. You always see him do that, no matter what.
That
he
reminds
was doing.
me of that Joe Rogan snip where he's talking about genetics and how important they are. And he's like, have you ever been on like, one of these rusty,
That's
dusty
Rich
parts
Piano.
of town? Oh, Rich Piano.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a rich piano.
Rich Piano. And he's like, I see these crackheads and they're just like taking horrible care of themselves and they're shredded. They look amazing. And they're not eating and they're just doing drugs. And it's like, gosh, how the heck? It's the genetics.
The
They
Lord
have
has made
really
these
good
bodies
genetics.
amazing for
Yeah,
some
no
people.
kidding.
They can do little and get incredible
They
results.
just got an improved pre-workout, right?
Yeah. Nothing like
One
crack
might
cocaine,
say,
baby.
yeah,
That
stuff will
get
jack
going.
you up.
But he ended up moving, and John and I were like, "Can we buy your kit? Can we?" And he's like, "How much?" And we were like, "We got like $100." And he's like, "Guys, take it." So that we started training again with that in our whitey tighties in the room, blasting metal, sweating our nuts off. Just 2-3 guys, very just.
And we started
focused.
inviting our friends.
Yeah.
So we would have these little workout parties where like 2 of our friends would come in and we'd just blast the music as loud as we could and get crazy in there. And I remember one time the music was so loud, we had our buddy Luke in there, we were doing benches. We tried to it was a really narrow bench set. So like the
old
things that
school
held up.
Arnold style.
Yeah, so
where it's like
your
right
arms would go
there.
up around it. So it was like essential that you peeled off the weights at the same time. Otherwise, boop, the bar would go up and you have an accident. And so me and Luke are sitting there. I think Joe's benching. And I'm like, Luke, we're going to peel off 2 of these things. Luke is, if you know him, he's incredible. He's ready to go. So he must have heard take them all off. And he took them all off. And I'm telling you, I was standing. I couldn't get out in time. And I saw this 45-pound plate just bounce off my
Slow
big toe. I was
motion,
like,
dude.
oh, my God.
I thought it exploded.
Yeah,
I was like, his toes no more.
They're like, are you okay? I was like, we're finishing the sets, baby. Next day, that thing was the size of
John
like an
finished
orange.
the workout.
Yeah, man, it was brutal. But that's like
Some endorphins.
safety in the gym, dude. That was the last thing on our minds. The music was so loud, we were screaming at each other in our whitey tighties, just sweating our nuts off. Best times, some good
Loved it.
times.
So then that ended. We got into the band. That took up all our time. And then we came back into like the health and really focused on our bodies getting better when we went to Alaska. Quit smoking, quit drinking, and just started focusing on getting the body back in order. And that's when we started bodybuilding, and that's when we started eating right, and that's when we started making it the lifestyle that it now is, where it's one of the greatest gifts that just keeps giving back. There's always some more to go. There's no like pinnacle in bodybuilding. There's always something that you can fine tune, kind of like music. It's just a gift that keeps on giving. And it quickly becomes longevity based, where you want to take better care of your body and stay healthier longer instead of just
Once those injuries
looking
start
badass.
rolling in, you kind of got to take care of your body. At first, I feel like it's just a cathartic release for young men. It's like I can go in there and push as hard as I can. And then you start to realize, okay, recovery is a part of this. Those people who say that gym rats are like meatheads, they really don't understand the amount of attention and the amount of learning you're going to have to do. If you hurt your shoulder, you're going to have to learn about the muscles involved. You're going to have to understand the nerves and where they go. And you end up learning about yourself. And it's a really fun experience because, well, the injuries in and of themselves are not like fun. But at the end of the day, your intimate relationship with your body becomes that much more intimate. You learn about your
You know a
bicep.
lot. When I first met you, I'd be
Injuries.
talking about an injury with you, and you're just rattling off all these terms of the human body.
you're
and I'm like,
lucky,
I have
Mike.
no idea what you're saying right now. It's a different language.
Mike's like, I do not get injured.
That's exactly right.
I am
Like-
not retarded like you boys.
Exactly.
They're like, "Whoa, failure! Failure means death. Failure
Yes.
means injury." And we had to learn that the hard way. It's like how to train. What failure is, and how to really get the most out of each training session in relation to recovery. Because the older you get, the more advanced you get, the more recovery plays in, the more you're pushing your whole body to its periphery of experience. So you have to be wiser the better you get. You can't, and that's what training harder becomes. It just becomes training smarter and getting better.
What gave you guys like the motivation to just stick with it? Because that's what a lot of people struggle with, right? Motivation.
I think it just became, after the gym, we would go and train. My brother and I would usually train together. It gave us so much in terms of how we would approach that day's problems. Spiritually, it's a great food. Putting yourself in a state of suffering and also being conscientious of, while you're in that suffering, it's not just you're seeing black or you're seeing red. You know, you have to remain conscious within those last reps and stay in it. And that would overflow into other lives, the other parts of our lives that were challenging. So we would stay in it, you know, not run away when you were at the end of your set, you know, when you want to quit. So I think that ultimately is what kept us in the bodybuilding, because we didn't see results for like a long time. You know, we had some newbie results, but our bodies didn't start.
Eating diet was one of the things. I remember we were pushing really hard. We were in the gym in California, and this guy Chris, he was a personal trainer. He's more athletic based. He's like, I see you guys in here and you're killing yourselves, but I'm not seeing any growth. He's like, what are you guys eating? So we told him our eating schedule, and he's like, you guys got to eat a lot more. You're not eating half enough. So Joe and I went and took that to went to Costco, bought all this stuff. We bought all these little Pyrex containers, started meal prepping on Sundays. We had 6 meals a day. We went from 165 pounds to 200 pounds in probably 8 months. And just overwhelming our poor digestive tract. It could not take it. There was points where I was just like, am I supposed to feel this way?
Foie growing every day.
Yeah, I don't want to eat at all. And we were really strong in the gym. So it was fun. When you're strong in the gym, I feel like it's the most fun.
The weight's going up. You're just getting stronger.
You feel the inner beast, the inner animal kind of come. And that to me is what kept me in the gym. That, to answer your question. Seeing progress as you become more of a sort of senior gym goer, you've went through say 6-7 years of devoted gym time with diet, your gains slow way down, you know, and you're lucky to get a pound of muscle a year if you're doing it right. And that becomes more of a discipline of devotion at that point in time. Like Joe said, the day feels better when you're able to get through a workout routine and overcome, excuse my French, sort of that inner bitch, or that inner weak desire to give up or walk away in the face of danger or stress. And it's always the same every day. I mean, the interesting part that I realize about when I go to the gym is there are times where I go to the gym feeling really great, expecting to crush it. And, you know, halfway through my first exercise, I'm just totally humbled. I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling that great. There are other times I go in there, I feel pretty bad and end up really doing well. And so you learn about those different circumstances. It teaches you about your emotions and how, if you feel good about something, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do great. You know, it teaches you about the discipline of the lift. And doing it early in the day worked great for us, because that did, as Joe explained, set you up to overcome those other challenges and obstacles. I mean, and you will face them every day. So that's something that kept me in the gym, was that's a really great thing. I mean, my body looks good, maintaining that. Of course, when you step out of the gym for 3 months, you'll see that, you know, that hard work goes pretty quick. So you don't want to lose what you've made, that hard work you've earned, but also it's that offering to the spirit, the mind. You know, it's not a vanity thing. You're not seeing huge gains. You're just trying to overcome the weak part of yourself, you know.
Alone, which I think is interesting within the community of bodybuilders, because it's not like your normal athletic team-based exercise where you have this camaraderie that's available to you on those days, and everyone's getting you up, and there's this team element that changes the dynamic of whatever discipline you have. As a bodybuilder, being alone so much, dieting alone, training alone, being aware of that dialogue between your body and yourself, and that whole dialogue, and listening as much as you can, that's a very sovereign process. And you have to just look at yourself and be with yourself by yourself with no one else. And I think that's what one of the biggest sort of, when you walk with Christ, it's you and him. When you get judged, it's you and him. There's no one else standing next to you on Judgment Day when it's you and God taking claim over how you live your life on this planet for however long you've been gifted to do so. And that is something that is just between you and God. And I think bodybuilders understand that from a perspective of that's real, because you have that sovereign approach to the discipline. And I believe that's why in the bodybuilding community, there is a strong fruit. There's a power, there's a growth, there's a ripening ready for those, a lot of the younger guys and people that are just, they see that that this body's going to fall apart, and it's going to go right back to the dust where it came from. And we want strong eternal bodies. That's what we're looking for. That is the goal. And this is a great exercise. It shows us these tools relate to building a strong spiritual man as well. And I think that's why the bodybuilding community is having such a, what'd you call it? Not a resurgence, but a revival, a bit of a revival going on.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? So let's hear about this adventure into fitness. Where did it begin?
Well,
Pepsi Mike.
Pepsi Mike. That's what I'm known as. Is probably, let's see, how old? 19, 20. So yeah, the old version of me was definitely into drinking a lot of Pepsi and playing video games. And my youth kept me in, like, that worked out because of my youth. But when I turned probably like 22, I took a job at Microsoft that, like, they even call it like the Microsoft 15 of the first year, kind of like they say the freshman 15, because the Microsoft cafeteria is amazing. Endless free soda, fountain pops,
Pops.
Chocolate milk machines, and just, it's amazing. And I could see the photos of me like before then versus after. I don't know, 6 months there, and I gained some serious weight. So
I should have been a power lifter, bro.
I know. I should have been lifting during that period, but I definitely wasn't.
Oh my God.
So I was, I think I remember clocking in at my parents' house when I was visiting at like 225 was the heaviest I gotten. So it wasn't like
That's not
morbidly
too bad,
obese by any means. But I wasn't thrilled with how,
Got
I mean,
some
there was
junk in the trunk.
zero muscle going on in that.
Wow.
So, and then when I think about like how I got started into lifting from there and the snowball effect on it. So I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time. Trying to think how that, and then we had a contest. He had kind of always been in and out of fitness diets and stuff. He's kind of one of these short-term dieters, and then gets off the wagon a little bit, comes back. But he's always kind of it's always been on his mindset, and he was a good inspiration for me. So we kind of had like this contest. I think we were going to see who could lose 10 pounds first.
Nice.
And so we started that. I can't exactly remember who won, but I got the results of that 10 pounds off, and I was it became almost like an addiction.
Empowered.
Yeah, it was like like I went from 10 pounds. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna keep going, and I got in this routine of like how to lose weight.
What were you guys doing in terms of diet?
We were actually both doing keto at the time. We were both kind of nerded out in that world, and I started doing it. I was just like, pretty much solely keto that whole time. I did some fasting, intermittent fasting with it, and I got into some of the longer fasts, and
That's wonderful.
And then I would do a lot of fasted cardio, which that's up for debate if that even really matters. It's really kind of a calorie burn in the end. It doesn't matter.
Feels good.
Yeah. So, and then I was in a heavy calorie. I was eating like 1,500 calories a day. So anyway,
So you're eating just diet. You weren't lifting.
I was
cardio.
I was doing a lot of cardio. And I was doing some lifting. But it was at home. Like I got a pull-up bar above the door. My uncle had good weights, and so I was lifting at home, and then I ended up getting a gym membership, like at a nearby gym. But I would say, what got the weight off was definitely just the diet plus cardio.
It's an important point for everybody.
Yeah, and what I noticed is it's like, how did I keep the motivation? And it just snowballed, really, because I went from 225, down 10 pounds, and another 10 pounds. And I just kept seeing this success, and it kind of got addicting. Like, I enjoyed it. It was
your confidence starts to go up. When your confidence goes up, you discover more of yourself. You're a more healthy individual intellectually. Your mental health actually starts to stabilize.
Definitely.
And then you know, I mean, for a lot of the younger men, you start to turn into a man. You know, instead
those
of
are
going
fruits,
from
baby.
this plucked pigeon, you know, being a young guy, you're either fat or you're skinny. You know, rarely are you going to find a teenager, you know, around that bracket, young adult, that's just like ripped and amazing looking. The amount of work that goes into getting a manly looking figure is intense. It's not something that you're just given. You know, I mean, for younger ladies, I feel like they have a different, you know, if they're 17 or like even 14 to like 22, 23, God just sort of gives them that gift where their bodies just are what they are. Whereas men, it's like, you know, if you have small pecs or shoulders or whatever, get ready to work to try and make those things grow.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, then I started lifting probably somewhat during that time, so it was great to see the growth in strength. Even though I was cutting, like I was still gaining strength. And then that was also about the time I started traveling, and so I would hit these plateaus, and I ended up getting through them by traveling, of all things. So
what kind of plateau?
I'd be at like 200 pounds. I'd be stuck there. I'm stuck going lower, probably because I'm in such a deficit that my metabolism is slowed and whatnot. So I'd be stuck there. And I guess to back up to, as far as the mental health and like feeling good too, I think if you're used to just being probably inflamed all the time, eating sugars and crap, and then you go completely, you go to a ketogenic diet, which is like anti-inflammation. Plus your brain's full of ketones all the time. Intermittent fasting,
testosterone's
it's such a different feeling. You feel great, and
health is wealth.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think Joe Rogan and Jogan.
His name is Jogan. Well, I like that,
that's
dude.
his nickname now, Jogan. Jogan. Him and Rhonda
wasn't short enough.
Him and Rhonda Patrick were talking about depression and like inflammation in the brain, and I think it's so true. And like, there's so many people that probably go to the doctor for depression issues, and I didn't really have them at that point, so not necessarily reflective of me. But if you like were to cut their sugar, like diet down, their sugar intake, their calorie intake down, send them to the gym, like I bet they would not need any depression meds.
Fundamentals.
Yeah,
just
like
try to.
Yeah, exactly, Joe.
Fundamentals first. Let's not treat symptoms and try to curb something.
Let's go down SSRIs right away. But
so, funny enough, they don't work very well. By the way, they're like 50%. So
I think it's even lower than that now.
Untreatable depression. Yeah, it's a big deal.
But yeah, as far as the plateaus I hit. So I'd go on these trips. That was when I started traveling. So I'd go like on a 7 to 10 day trip to Europe. And in that time, like I would walk 10 hours a day and not eat enough. So I'd come back like 7 to 10 pounds lighter, and that would like bust me through those plateaus. And then I kept going down. So I'd probably do 2 or 3 of those a year. So I'd say I probably lost 90% of the weight in probably took 2 to 3 years, 50 pounds.
And so this all began when you were what age?
I think it was around 22 or 23.
So you've been sticking to it from
22. And then I got down to my lowest, so 225 down to 165, and that was when I was doing the hard 75 challenge.
I saw a picture.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't see this picture. I want to see it.
I was doing the hard 75.
Cut up.
Yeah.
Hey.
That would have been just after I moved here, so 2 years ago. I was doing a carnivore diet, and I couldn't keep the weight on, so I went down the lowest at 165, and then after that,
done a lot of diet experimenting.
Yeah, I loved I like both the experimenting on diets and then the challenges of doing hard stuff. Like I would like, you guys do long fasts. I enjoyed doing them back then too when I was cutting, trying out different hardcore diets, like just full carnivore.
That desire to explore is what I've learned is important, because when you begin, you're taking in other people's, what
everyone's got an opinion
with, and they're like, this is gonna work,
and you got to find what's sustainable.
Yeah, and your body's so different. So if something works for you isn't gonna work for me, so you end up realizing after failed adventures into guaranteed successville is that you need to find out what works for you.
Right.
And that's just hard work of trying, like you did, different diets, and seeing how your body responds.
Yeah.
Right. You can get a coach. Nothing wrong with getting a coach. But still, even if you do get a coach, chances are you're going to find another coach and then another. And it's going to be more of like a mentoring, learning process where you're going to have to always put in that hard work of taking notes and being aware of your own progress, that inner dialogue between you and your body that is unspoken, and being aware of your instrument panel, like on your truck.
There's no
stuff.
easy cutting corners way to do that. You have
getting your blood work done, like getting diligent about like how to make those, what works, what doesn't, and why.
Well, and you also can't think about these things as a diet. You have to think about it as a lifestyle.
That's a good point. I don't know why.
Because diet's temporary. People think they can do these diets, shed 10 pounds, and
there's a life
yo-yo
that
back.
continues after
the
your
yo-yo.
diet.
Yeah. And so
it's a life. I think it's a life. What we're after is a lifestyle that works for this body that you've been given.
Yeah.
And really getting that etched out so that
tuning it up.
Yeah,
you have to figure out a way to keep your sanity. Like I did a keto diet probably for 5 years in total.
That's a
Most
long
people
time.
can't handle a keto diet. It is so restrictive. But the thing I did with it to keep my sanity was I didn't stick to it 100%. I would have probably 2 days a week where I would cheat. So I pretty much ate perfect for 5 days.
That'll keep your sanity.
And then 2 days a week I got to look forward to cheating.
It's like
and then I would carb
carb cycling.
Cycling.
So my Saturday routine used to be, and some of my friends joined me on it too, is insane. I would do 90 minutes on the Stairmaster. So it was
you
like
don't hold on to the rails, do you, Mike?
No.
Nothing wrong with that, people, but I just believe
It's holding on to something.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
No,
I couldn't do it now, that's for sure.
I agree.
But I would
Taking the weight off
basically
your legs.
I would just do it until the machine said I burned 1,000, or until my Whoop band said I burned 1,000 calories, which whether or not that's accurate or not, it doesn't really matter. But
they're not.
Then I would that would be my cheat day. So I'd go eat a bunch of Dominoes and a bunch of just garbage. But I earned it.
There we go. Oh,
So yeah, I was known to like some Dominoes on Saturdays after that.
I think that's also cool about bodybuilding is like it's finding balance.
Yeah.
Because like you said, yo-yos and diets, like that's not going to be longevity based. You're not going to keep that up. It's going to be more than anything disheartening. You probably just relapse into something that feels comfortable. So it's important to find balance within your diet. It's important to find, because we love food. I mean, we do. We eat pretty restricted diets because we view our diet as fuel, and it's how it affects our body, which is most important.
I would say that was one of the biggest changes in my psychology, like the way I thought about food, was seeing it as a fuel instead of a reward or some kind of thing that I earned. When I was able to see food for a fuel and actually look at these things as building blocks, it became a different sort of a reward. It's like, you're rewarding your body. I'm not getting this huge dopamine kick from eating the, glazed donut or whatever. And I feel actually really good. So now I know my body doesn't like carbs during the day. So I don't like insulin spikes. I'm really sensitive to that. It affects my focus. And then, my work ethic kind of begins to suffer. So I stay away from them during the day. At night, I'll have a nice portion of carbs, and it preps me for sleep. So you're using food as a tool rather than a reward. And I find a lot of people are addicted to pop, as Mike likes to say, or, some kind of a situation with sugar where their dopamine is like they need it. They're addicted to it, and they end up viewing food. Now they're addicted to food. It's not a fuel source. So that was a big change for me, and it allowed me to respect food a lot more. To view it as, here's food, here's reward, because we do have those, days where we'll eat based off of like a pizza or something like that. But the longer I do it, the more I feel like the pizza or the McDonald's for me. I love McDonald's. I get my double quarter pounder, double fish sandwich, extra sauce, and my chicken nuggets, and that's good. My body's less and less like, this is great, So I think the more you stick with it, the worse you're gonna, like when I stopped drinking, I remember I would drink for a little bit during the night with some friends. The next day I'd really begin to feel it. So you're all of a sudden getting experience from like eating bad or drinking, and you see how much that affects you. Since you're not living in that affected state, you re-enter into that affected state, and you're like, man, is that a drag? That's brutal, man. My body must really be working hard to get rid of this crap. You start to be able to figure out that, yeah, your it'll send a distress signal to you like, oh, my tummy's hurting, but how hard is it really working? It's working its butt off, and if your body had a voice, it'd be like, you're killing me.
Yeah.
That's that inner dialogue that we were aware of as bodybuilders, because that's what tells you, I mean, getting blood work, being aware of these things, but really that's that dialogue with your body and talking to you and getting to know that those sensations mean, and not just turning a blind eye to it or eating the donut and covering up these things with different dopaminergic responses, be it food or drugs or whatever it may be, and driving into the things that matter, like the Word of God. Like this stuff, getting the meat out, focusing on what's of real importance, what's going to get us ahead, and finding that those are the things that we end up using more, utilizing. The stronger you get, the better you get, the more you crave them, the less you crave this other stuff.
And the more you understand what feeling good actually means.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like it actually does feel better.
You can feel good, and it's, yeah.
Because some people look at me and they're like, how do you eat that, bro? That's gross. Like you're eating jack mackerel and sardines, bro. Like, ugh. And I'm like, I just like it. I love this food. I love the way it makes me feel. Yeah. I feel like it's good for me. Like, my body, I can feel that dialogue.
But that didn't happen overnight.
No.
That took years to in order for us to desire that. It took years.
You got to train your body out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what that discipline is, And the more and more you make those choices, the more and more you drive into those hard choices, the more and more you decide, like we talked about Bible study this weekend, the more and more you're cultivating your spiritual man, you're becoming stronger. The less and less you're likely to make those bad decisions. The more likely you're going to draw in closer to the Lord. You're going to walk with Him, and then these fruits are going to start to grow.
For me, I understood like the reward is the discipline. The reward is the action, the good action that you've decided upon. It's in the gesture. It's in the decision. It's not so I can have a pizza on Saturday or Friday. It's like that's a lot of the reason why I respect the Stoics, because they had an idea of self-serving that was a higher level than saying, being a slave to your dopaminergic system or something like that. You're trying to serve what's in your control, and you're taking that really seriously. In the church, there's so many people who make, in the world at large, Western, they make excuses. Like you brought up depression. There are so many young people that are just growing up, and they have people around them saying, you're depressed. And it's like, dude, you're just growing up. This stuff's rough. It's not that you're depressed. It's that this is hard. You're climbing a mountain, and your hands are worn out, and your legs feel like they're about to give. And that's what growing up's like. You're not depressed. A drug's not going to fix that for you. You need to understand that discipline, meeting yourself in those hard moments over and over and over again, peel back who you are. You get to meet yourself, that inner dialogue with spirit and flesh. You are blown away at what ends up to happen. I mean, that's why the Bible, it's not an easy document. It requires discipline in order to open it up and begin to understand it. And God made it that way for a reason. So if the reward is the discipline, is the good action that you're taking, if you let that be simple, again, that's the reason why I like a lot of the Stoic philosophy, because they're not adding in all these bonuses and stuff. It's just like, do good because it's good.
That's good enough.
Well, it's kind of like the phrase, the journey is, the most rewarding part.
Yeah.
You could do that with discipline.
Yeah.
It's like when I did that 75 hard challenge, it's basically a mental toughness / discipline challenge. And like the journey of that was fun. And then when you get to the end, it's like, okay, now what? Like I kind of missed the challenge of it and being in the middle of it rather than being at the end of it. And I think we've probably all experienced that at the gym too. It's like I hit all my goals. And now what?
There's more. There's always more.
There's always more.
There's
but
always
it's like,
something you can do. It's beautiful.
There's something, a word that our beloved Andrew Huberman coined. It's called limbic friction. And it's a very cool look at this process that when you first go to the gym, you're not, people need to know you're 9 times out of 10 not really excited to go. Doesn't matter if you've been a gym rat for 10, 12 years. You've dragged yourself there.
I'd like to make a footnote. You said going to the gym, but really this applies to any learning process.
Yeah, I was simply using that as an example. Yes. It's present to whenever you begin to apply yourself deeply to an activity, a discipline. So it could be guitar, it could be reading a book, it could be doing chores outside, stuff like that. the first 20 to 30 minutes, you're going to have to undergo this friction, the limbic friction, before the brain sort of lets go and you begin to have these, dopamine, these different success chemicals start to come in. And people call it flow state. There's a lot of different words for it. It's just when your body has now surrendered, acquiesced to what's going on, your job at hand. And knowing that is so important, especially for young people. When you say you're in love with something, like
Can I elaborate on that really quickly?
Please.
So the limbic friction, guys, does not feel good. It's literally friction. It feels like when you begin to learn something. I know when I started like algebra class or something, I was not good at fractions. I was not good at math. Literally felt retarded the whole time. And then I would have these moments where I felt like I could, I was getting it. And it was that's where the dopamine, the motivator, was there. And it's like, you can do this. But the limbic friction, that cocktail, that 20 to 30 minutes while you're feeling retarded, trying to apply yourself, trying to learn something you don't understand at all, that's a cocktail of chemicals that floods your brain that allows for neuroplasticity for you to start learning. So when you're going through that moment of crappy feelings and feeling like a moron, that's when you're actually, it should be indicative sign to you, a green flag saying you're opening up the doors to neuroplasticity right now. Right. You're opening the doors to learn.
There's a book.
Feels like crap at first, but it's a good sign.
It's a really good sign. There's a book called How We Learn. I forget the author, but I bought it a few years ago because I was interested at the brain's different phases it goes through when you've sat down to do something. And it was a refreshing, and not only was it refreshing, but I noticed myself feeling bad when I underwent, limbic friction, not understanding that it was just a natural thing. You'd say, I don't feel good today, or I feel stupid today. I'm not warmed up, or it's just not my day. And you begin to sort of divorce yourself from a natural thing instead of like Joe had said, it's a green light. It's a green flag. It's a sign of you moving through the proper sequence of events to get to well-practiced zone. Another thing that in the book he talked about was something I had trouble with, because we always push too hard. We would always go a little too far, is reaching the wall. And so when you've applied yourself and you've passed the limbic friction point and you've actually got a body of work done, you need to rest. So he calls it meeting the wall, and you'll be able to know you've reached the wall when your sort of ability to, like something you could do 20 minutes ago has now become more frustrating to the point where you're breaking down. Your ability to break down problems is no longer there. That's why he calls it reaching the wall. And he talked about changing space, taking a break, closing your eyes, prayer, stuff like that. I used to think I was an idiot for reaching the wall. It's like, why can't I just keep going more? So I think that acknowledging these processes and then saying this is a good sign. I know what to do now. I've reached my wall. Take a 15, 20-minute break and then come back to it allowed me to feel more fluid in the different sequences of events that your brain goes through as it's trying to log data. You get that beautiful plastic phase, and the plastic phase kind of ebbs, and then you take a break, your brain resets. Yeah. And then you can go back into the fight. But if you're losing grip on your sword and stuff, it's time to rest.
Carl Jung said something about this. He said, if a man continues working past the point that he knows he needs rest, he is a fool. Something like that. Something to that nature.
Well, I think in our society, the stigma attached to like being a wussy or something like that means, are you pushing hard enough?
Sleep when I die.
Yeah, basically, and it's not paying enough respect to recovery. It's not paying enough respect to how those things work into the actual success of your journey or your adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
I noticed in my own experience, I wouldn't say that 30-minute time frame really ever affected, like you're talking about. I'm not sure I can relate exactly with that.
What do you mean, hitting the wall?
Well,
or
the
limbic friction.
The limbic friction. Like,
oh,
I'm trying to think. Like, I can't say it.
You've always felt smart.
You've
always felt lucky you.
I'll take it. But what I've noticed is the time frame to build a habit. So like for me, like if I am telling somebody about like gym habits and like fitness or health related stuff, I'm like, you got to give it 3 to 4 weeks is kind of the time frame. I think like you're going to hate going to the gym. Just gut it out for 3 to 4 weeks, and then your brain is going to start to pick that up as a habit. And then pretty soon, probably 2 months in, if you miss a day, you're like, well, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And that habit starts to take over. And that's totally what happened to me, I would say. And it's still happened to me. Like if I miss a day at the gym, I'm just like, what is wrong? Something's missing. And I think that's where that's the goal of where you want to get with the good habits, because I kind of view it like an addiction, like whether it's a good addiction or a bad addiction.
Well, it's funny you bring up
have
that
a good
word.
addiction in.
So it's like we say addiction means you can't survive without it, and commonly we associate addiction with things that are
something
actually
you do regularly,
but they hurt you too.
Yeah.
Right? Like stuff that's gonna, like, drugs are addicting or something like that, or they're so addictive. You're spending so much time doing this, you're not spending time in other areas of your life, which is an issue that we face. Like, I've had to ask myself if I've become vain, over obsessing over a body part and being like, yeah, I'm definitely obsessing over this body part. I'm definitely doing that, stepping over the line of just being healthy and thoughtful and stepping into, an addictive, obsessed mind frame, which is not good because we're trying to be healthy. Right. And vanity, you can be vain about all sorts of things, not just your look. You can be vain about your intelligence. You can be vain about
your suffering. We talked about the monks.
Pride and asceticism, like the monks. You can be vain about anything that you desire more than God, that you see as your character. And it's an issue because when you go to the gym, there's so many different forces in the gym. There's people there who are older, who are just trying to keep their bodies together. And being men, there's a competitive thing within yourself and those around you where you want to be the best you can be. And if that's not present, then you're going to not take the gym seriously. So it's a very healthy thing. You're trying to outdo who you were yesterday, as Jordan Peterson says. You're comparing yourself to yourself yesterday. And but the vanity thing is something that we have to constantly encounter, because these bodies do not represent our eternal being. And vanity is a scary thing because it's not something that creeps in. You can be confident and be vain, So it's like it doesn't let you know it's there when it's there. You really have to go looking for it and be honest with yourself. There's been times where I've just woken up and I'm like, I need to pray about this because I don't see it as a threat, so that might be the time to pray about it, because when you see it as a threat, you must be bloated. Usually somebody will tell you you're vain. That's how I noticed it. Like, somebody would be like, man, you really, and I'd be like, well, am I, so I've gotten.
Well, bodybuilding is a very physical, like, it gets the stereotype of meathead, guy looking at himself in the mirror. A little bit of what's the guy that looked at himself in the
pool of
water, stayed there until he died. He's a Greek mythology. So I can see a lot of people look at that because it's very it's your own body, and that typically is like the most cookie cutter vanity that we can go looking after. But there's a lot of different, like John was saying, there's a lot of different vanities that can take place, and I just think bodybuilding is a great tool to show us how to build a strong physical man.
Well, that's right.
Any discipline.
So you're either going to be healthy,
taken to a high level.
Like, I call myself a body sculptor, because I don't have to be as fit as I am. Just being honest, I don't have to be this fit. It's not like if I was less fit and I went to the gym and was less intense, I'd be probably just as healthy. Probably maybe a little more healthy in some ways, because my recovery wouldn't be as brutal as it is. So I have to acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge my desire to have a certain looking body, not just a healthy body, and make sure keeping that in check.
Yeah.
And making sure that I respect other men's disciplines is something that we had talked about, because Iron Disciples does have that predominantly, gym background culture. But something I'd like to let the listeners understand is that we appreciate discipline in all fronts, as long as it's healthy and it's a desire to improve your fellow man. I'm a musician. One of my other disciplines is music. Somebody might be an architect. Somebody might actually, have a heart of service. These different forms of discipline, although they're not talked about. Right now, the gym is in vogue big time. I remember going to the gym when I was 26. There wasn't many young people there as much as there is now. You can blame Instagram for that kind of stuff, and Facebook. And so it's grown a lot, and it's a popular thing. There was a time when bodybuilder wasn't even considered a sport. It was very much so the black sheep of all the sports, the basketball players, the
undercut
players,
by all the drugs too. Like, if you take steroids, and that's something I like to address, is because, like, if you do take this to a high level, say you're an IFBB pro, that's a part of the discipline at that point in time. And it's a sacrifice those guys make. It's not a get out of jail free card. It just means you can train so much harder because you now have this extra recovery. You're more anabolic because of it. So it's not a get out of jail free card. It's not like, oh, it's just easier for you. Actually, it's harder. They get to train more intensely than we do. They get to do more than we do to get more out of their bodies. So the sport
there's guys in the gym, more plates, more dates, says this all the time. Yeah, he's like, there's guys in the gym that are blasting gear and they look like crap and they don't have the gains that you would have bet if you were to look at all the stuff they were taking. It's not a fast track, guarantee to having Arnold Schwarzenegger's body.
No, Arnold Schwarzenegger's body, the guys that step on that stage that are winning Olympias are incredibly disciplined in every way, shape, and form. And I think that's the sport has been kind of undercut for all those different reasons because of what it is, and they don't see it as being athletic. It definitely has been a black sheep in the athletic world. It definitely has.
And so that's it. I think that we're making an effort to acknowledge the many, what we desire. I think at the root of it, what I've seen in a lot of churches is people who are trying to be spiritually healthy, and you see like a family man, he's working a lot, he's got a lot of junk in his trunk, he's eating like crap, and his poor family, they see this man who's sick. He's sick, he's fat, he's overweight, he's not eating well, he's not sleeping well, he's probably not telling his wife what his doctor is telling him because
his endocrine system is probably jacked up. He probably doesn't have much of a sex life. Doesn't feel like a man.
You're talking about what Mike had went through. He became more of himself when he was healthy. So the church is filled with these kind of men and women. A lot of obese, fat, depressed as a result people, because their bodies are so intricately connected to their emotional disposition. And so what does that mean? Well, it means you have a church full of people who are ignoring the fact that this is their temple. Your body is your temple. Paul says that. We were talking before the podcast, and I believe Corinthians, he says it several times. That's why Jesus said, I'm going to raise this temple after destroying it 3 days, talking about his body. So we're all high priests in Christ. We all have the Holy Spirit if you've been saved. And so we're sending a message to the unsaved world when our bodies look like crap and we're unable to really discipline ourselves to be healthy, that it doesn't matter. And I think it does. And the Western church needs to get their act together when it comes to, if you have a congregation and your pastor looks out and sees a bunch of water buffalo, maybe we should address that problem. Maybe we should say, these men aren't like Joe said, being men. They're testosterone, they're depressed, they're not pleasing their wives. No, I'm sorry, if your husband is really obese, you might love his heart and stuff, but with regard to sexual interaction, you need to feel attractive too. You can't just say, I love this person, and just say, we need to feel attracted to each other. So time and effort needs to be put into that, both on behalf of the male and the female.
I will say that part of bodybuilding for me was wanting to be more attractive to women, and feeling more like a good-looking man, feeling more masculine, feeling more manly and strong, and looking strong and masculine as well, because I wanted that. I wanted to be looked at that way. I felt like it was something I desired when I was younger, coming out of bands and just being like a little scrawny stick man. I was like, I want muscles. I want this. And a lot of it had to do with the opposite sex, with being a man that was strong, that could call a woman that was like, on that level as well, because I kind of wanted a beautiful woman as well, inside and outside. And so I figured if I wanted something like that, then I would have to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And I would have to become the man that woman deserves and desires, and be that guy before I can go out looking for her, or expect her to see me. And I think that's a due diligence that's so important.
That could turn into a trap too, because I've always thought about, like, if you are at the gym, I think you see this with people a little bit older in life, that they're literally there to attract a mate.
Yes.
And so when they get that mate, then all of a sudden they quit going to the gym. And then it's like
the single, not single memes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think we all know the story when, this couple got together, they were like super fit, and then 2 years later they're like overweight, and they don't even know what the gym is anymore.
You got to do it for yourself.
You got to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And,
so that would be great. And that's why I think it would be great to, to have that shared interest with your mate is a beautiful thing. Like, my brother and I train together. It's wonderful. If I was to have a wife that would do that too, there's so much between the cross relation between the diet and the lifestyle. It's almost like if you do desire this, your mate as a bodybuilder almost would probably think you're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I always think most
like,
people think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I've experienced that because like the surroundings of either my family and most of my friends when I started my journey, like I was like the one person on this crazy journey and going nuts on like just self-control in my diet, and they're like, can't you take a day off? I'm just like, no, I'm getting after it.
Devoted, dude.
But
you got tunnel
devotion, baby.
But it's there's no excuse today.
I love it.
There's really no excuse.
There's not.
It's like if you're obese, it's calories.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. You don't have to be fit, but just like you can control your calories.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first place to start.
Yep.
And control
that's a solvable problem.
They make it too complicated with the diet. It's calories in, calories out.
Like the people that.
Well, I'd say it's important to also pick good foods. You need to be able to say I got bad habits if I'm eating crap, because like there's a professor that showed his kids.
Yeah.
He's like
ice cream.
Yeah, or Twinkies, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
And he lost weight because he ate like one Twinkie a day, but he lost weight. So I think your body, you need to say these are built. I'm making my body by eating this food. This is actually going to turn into my body. So calories in and calories out is important, but also developing a taste for healthy food.
Remove
but
those
you can get
processed
fat off of good food. John and I eating 6 meals organic, whole grains, and you can get fat doing that too.
Well, they both play a role. Calories in and calories out is important.
That's
but
the number one.
Yeah,
important. And then because some people will like get on the gym train, and then not put it like they'll be like, okay, I hit the gym today. Now I get to have that burger at McDonald's. So it almost makes them go
cancels
backwards.
it out.
Yeah,
I've
seen
that happen a lot. Like where they feel now they can just
I
do
feel
whatever
like
they
that.
want.
The issue with those people is that they don't have a healthy relationship with food. So they're still calories in, calories out. If I go on the Stairmaster, I got 1,500 calories. How much is this burger? 800. Okay, I can fill that gap. They're still not having a healthy relationship with food.
You're not making progress at that time. You're just counterbalancing every action with a negative action, which is not really what it's about. You want to counter everything with a positive on top of a positive, and then have like a couple days where you enjoy, like we'll have on the weekends, we cook. And it'll be a much funner meal. Or maybe we might go to McDonald's with Mikkel on a Sunday, because it's like just I can't make McDonald's
For the
at home.
record, I can't.
I cannot design a double quarter pounder and chicken nuggets. No. It takes a lot of processing, engineering, and alien technology to make that type of fake food. And that's why I go there. But the point is that those moments are great little moments, and that's what they are. And because we love food, and I like some junk food sometimes, but it's about the consistent progress.
Gotta be consistent.
Yeah, if I'm not making progress, then I'm not moving forward. And the Lord made it so that we can have we can enjoy things, and we should enjoy things. We should enjoy good food. We should have balance in this.
Yeah, again, going back to the Stoics, like moderation's a big thing that they talk about. And just like Jesus turned the water into wine, it's okay to have a buzz, but then you stick your foot into drunkenness. The same stepping over the line with food can happen. You're all of a sudden gluttonous, where you're taking in these outside things, food, drugs, alcohol, and it becomes an issue. And that's your relationship to what it's doing. Like if you're finding yourself craving ice cream at 12, you've conditioned your body to do that.
It's out of control. And this can happen with food. It can happen with girls. Like, it can soak up the time that you should be spending on other things, and you're out of balance. You can feel it inside your soul. You're like, this is out of whack. I feel like I'm the gerbil working in that little wheel, going nowhere, working really hard. This is not proper.
When I was really young, like I think when I first got interested in, it was a Rocky. was it Rocky or maybe it was Cliffhanger? We used to go with Mom to go pick movies. And so I saw this movie with this ripped dude. It's probably Cliffhanger, just hanging by one hand. You know, he's about to fall off the rock, and he's got all this gear on, and just this shredded arm sitting up there. And it was so powerful. I remember just thinking about that, you know, because there weren't many ripped dudes. Alaska people cover up a lot. You don't see that high level of masculine, like, body composition. So it stuck out to me. I was shocked by it. And our dad, he was a good-looking guy, was. And he used to swim. He used to really pride himself with how long he could hold his breath. And when you're kids, you play games like that, like how long can I hold my breath? I remember middle school, it was like arm wrestling became a big deal. We had tetherball as well. So, and for us, we were sort of competitively, we liked the competition. We didn't have a problem with losing a whole bunch in order to learn how to win. And I feel like that was something that disencouraged a lot of other people who found competition, like, just if they lost, it's not for me, or I'm not cut out for it. And I remember holding my breath and getting up to like 30 seconds and going through more pain, finally getting up to a minute. For tetherball, we came from Alaska. It was a brand new game. We had no idea what this game was, but we were obsessed with it because all the kids in school were obsessed with it. So monkey see, monkey do. We get up there, wait in line, and the kids would wreck us every single time. And the girls would wreck us, you know, and I'd try to learn where the ball was going to go and begin to become good at the game. And eventually we became great at it. And then from there, arm wrestling, right? So you're beginning to discover your body parts in the way, because you got social hierarchy in school. If you're good at tetherball, or you can kick the ball and kick ball really hard, or you're a good soccer player, you're more valued in the classroom. You know, like, this kid, I'm going to pick him first because he's going to get points on the board. So I started to acknowledge that when I was young. Is like, your body can get you ahead in life if you take care of it, if you are willing to learn and make the sacrifice to get good at something, maybe a sport or something, and your body's going to be the thing to do that for you. So I'd say when we first got that, Jim said we didn't affect any real changes in our body. We didn't get bigger, but we did enjoy the pain, I'd say.
We got stronger.
We did enjoy the pain. And that's really what I see lacking in some of the new gym goers that just want to lose weight, is you need to fall in love with your body in that pain zone and know that's where your gains, like those last 4 reps, right? When you do those 10 reps or whatever your volume count is, those last few reps are really where you're making the gains. You're living in this inferno, this like furnace, this place where you're hanging on for dear life. And that's where you start to fall in love with it. You know, I that's where I fall in love. That's that high level when people are pushing that red line.
And then it comes down to dieting too. It's like when you feel like crap, you know, you got to do work, got to send emails, you got to attack problems with what you've got. Feel like 1/8% of your brain is active, and you have to go, well, that's what I have, you know, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to stay in this as conscientiously and as diligently as I physically and mentally can right now. And I'm all right with feeling like absolute garbage. I'm okay with this. That's all right. And I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to do this the following day. And you get kind of, it almost is, you get a reverence for suffering, and you start to understand what Christ means when rejoice in your suffering, when Paul talks about rejoicing in suffering, because that's when gains are made. And that's when we progress.
There's also the suffering side, because I was just thinking what you said about like the people that are so unhealthy, obese, whatever out there today, which is the majority, they're operating at probably like 60 or 70% just overall, because they're inflamed in their head. Like, they got all these kind of ailments underneath the surface because of their unhealthy lifestyle, that they're running around at far from being 100%. Yeah. Whether it's, for the family,
right, and dopamine
work.
will do that, because if you're going into a process to where you're constantly medicating your body, or with food or with habits, whatever it is, and you think feeling good is about what life's about, it's not. It's not what life's about. Life's about pushing further and getting into those uncomfortable places to where you're progressing and you're learning. And the Lord made that so that it's It's man stuff. It's like going to battle. That's what men do. We go to the wars.
We're all going to face diminishing returns when it comes to the body. We are. We're going to get 45, 50, and then it's going to be maintaining, and beyond that, we're going to be sort of decomposing. So our spiritual gains are the ones we should be most intensely interested in. Reading the Bible, praying, fellowshipping, those are the iron sort of representation in our spiritual life. Serving others, but the feelings are similar, like Joe's saying. They're similar. You're going to feel painful, suffering when somebody lets you go down and you forgive them. That's a process. It's not something that just happens that day you choose to forgive them. You carry that on.
Because sometimes people get this idea that because you look good, you must feel great all the time. Like, or because you have a strong physical body or a close relation to Christ, you're just, you're on this, everything's working, like the prosperity gospel. Everything's just working for you in your life. And that's opposite, usually if you look great, you're making a lot of sacrifices to look that way.
You're always sore, and you learn to love that pain, though.
You learn to love that pain.
You learn to love the pain. You learn to love losing.
Right.
Like when I was playing tetherball, I learned to love the fact that I was learning. I'm not going to be the best walking up into this gym. You don't have to have this idea of ego or machismo. It's like, it's against you and yourself, and you begin to really desire those little moments of pain and suffering. You're like, this is where the game, you start to acknowledge that's where it's at, man.
You internalize that process from a very sovereign, critical angle, so there's not a whole lot of dynamics around it. It's just you and yourself, like Peterson says. How can I better myself from yesterday?
That's a healthy paradigm to look at success. I mean, don't be comparing yourself to the dude with like top tier genetics and saying, I want to be him. That's not healthy. Be the best version of you that you can be, and be honest with the effort you're putting in. I think the excuse is like, say, I don't know what it feels like to be a father with like, a bunch of responsibilities. I don't. That's why I probably have time to do all these, things that he would make. He'd be like, you have time, bro. I don't have time. I've heard that excuse so many times. And it's like, well, you may not have as much time as I do, but your body deserves some time. So you need to carve that out during your day. Because people say you don't know what it's like to have this responsibility. You don't know what it's like to be a husband. You don't know what it's like to have a career and all these things. And it's like, well, that's true, but we have to take this priority list of like looking after your kids, looking after your career. If you're sick in, 4 years, you have cardiovascular disease, diabetes, something horrible, chronic sickness you begin to have, how's that going to affect your
You have time to control your calories, too.
True.
Anyone can do that.
Anybody can do that.
Yeah, diet number one. You can control what you're eating. And then if you can,
and we need to press those guys on it. You need to press them on it. Like be like, this is something you have to do.
I agree.
To help those that maybe haven't set foot in a gym in years or maybe never, like, what's your recommendation for just somebody that's totally green to it?
What I tell people, and this is, do something that you enjoy doing. Like for some people it might be rollerblading.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it might be tennis. Something active where you're interfacing with your body and you kind of get that feeling of like, this feels good initially, and then do that regularly. Like maybe if you can play tennis once a week, do it once a week, every week. Then maybe do it twice a week, and then see where that leads you. And then that discipline might go farther, or you might say,
not everybody's like Mike, where they can take a big chunk off. Doing a little bit and inspiring that discipline with
consistently,
little baby steps.
Consistently, make sure that's not a yo-yo thing. It's something that you can incorporate into your lifestyle and keep and identify with. But something physical, and that's a great door opener to all different other types of disciplines you can kind of figure out. Because sometimes for people, maybe all they did was play tetherball, or maybe they're harkening back to something they enjoyed in PE class. I don't know. Could be like dodgeball or something.
Yeah.
But the point is go out and enjoy your body and interface with it and push it a little bit and do it regularly and consistently, whatever that may be, and just ask the Lord for it. Go into your memories. Go back in time and see if there's something that you would enjoy doing, and see if you can do it regularly.
Mm-hmm. I would say I like to start with general posture, breathing. Especially when I talk to older people, it's like, what's your breathing look like before bed? What's your posture like if you're sitting down all the time? You have a job where you're sitting for most of the day. Let's acknowledge the body has changed as a result of that and focus on those things first. If there's a person who's already they know what they like to do, that's why I'm saying there's not many people who love to bodybuild. team sports seem to have the most draw because there's more team building stuff. You're having fun with other people. But you can go to the gym and have bad form. You can go to the gym and you can hurt yourself. So when I tell people to go to the gym, I tell them to look at the exercise you're doing and take time with it. Don't just be worried about meeting a number of like 10 reps at such and such a weight. Take time with your posture, your bracing, your breathing. If you're going to lift a heavy object, make sure your core is super tight. You know, your transverse abdominis, for most people, if they're overweight, that is distended and very thin. You're looking at hernias like this. So make sure and reinforce that abdominal wall. Be able to sit down low and have your pelvic floor, your anal lock correct so that you can breathe correctly. Because the last thing you want to do is start feeling good in the gym and then get an injury because of bad form. And form starts with the posture. How's your neck? How's your head? You know, do you know how your scapula feels laying against the bottom of your rib cage, your serratus, so that they don't end up getting the injuries that I did? And that's what I will try and focus their attention on. It's like, get in touch with your body and the movements. You're practicing movements. A tennis player is practicing this movement, running and stopping. When you go to the gym, you're practicing a little movement. It's like, that's your movement. You know, figure that one out. Do it right. Take your time with learning how to do it right. Then add the weight.
Right.
You know,
and as bodybuilders, I think that's more specific. So like if you are getting into the bodybuilding,
he asked about the gym, yeah,
for sure. And
so.
I think that foundation is the first part that people just want to go hit the free weights. You know, let's go do some curls, you know, or something like that. But John's absolutely right. It comes down to breath, bracing, and then focusing on those, like, you know, your shoulders, your hips, your ankles, your wrists, like these other parts these are those foundationary body parts that need to be strengthened before you can start really loading up these other muscles.
I think what you're saying, though, these people would need a trainer.
Well, the thing is, like, there's so much information.
That's if they're asking me. Because
Yeah,
if they're asking me, I will try and tell them that, like, yeah, you should get a trainer. You should go on to YouTube and do what I did. Look up PT exercises. Look up, if you're sitting, look up exercises to help your hips. Take your body in, like if you took it to the shop, your body, you know, like, this needs an oil change. It needs this and this, because you're going to take your car to the track, or your body to the track. Before you do that, why don't you get somebody to try and analyze it and say, look, well, you need an oil change. We need to change your differential. Your tires are bald. You know, you're going to skid out on the track on lap 1. So, yeah, I do tell them that's how serious it is, because too many people have this false idea of simplicity in the gym, and then they end up hurting themselves. So that's what I'm a herald to them. That's what I try to do.
Bird dogs, the big 3, you know what I mean? Andrew Locke's shoulder big 3. You know, working on, you know, Squat University, working on, I mean, basic compound movements and getting to, and this is the boring stuff, but it's the foundation to building a strong body and getting those, so you can really start to put the pressure on your body and not have injuries.
Yeah. I see this a lot, where an older guy who's kind of bigger comes in the gym, usually at the beginning of the year after New Year's resolutions are up, and he hits the heaviest weights you've ever seen in your life. Really? He'll get on the hammer strength machine, load up like as many 45-pound pizzas as he can, and he's just there blowing it out, you know.
Leg press.
Yeah,
1 inch range of motion.
He lasts a month, and then you don't see him because he's been injured,
torn.
Torn.
Well, the
Sad.
what I experienced with people coming to me, like, I was trying to get my brother to go to the gym, my nephew, and they're so concerned, like, about looking like an idiot at the gym. I noticed. So people that, like, haven't been in there before, they just think everyone's watching them. And that they're going to look like an idiot. And I'm like, no one, number one, no one cares about everyone else at the gym.
Yeah, everybody's.
Number two, people like us usually love to see the noobs at the gym. We're like,
100%, dude. I'm always
That's
so
awesome.
proud. Like, whenever I see, like, a big chunky guy in there, I'm like, this guy's, I see him sweating his balls off. I'm like, yeah, bro. Like, get it, bro. I'm so proud of you, man. Like, that shows courage. And
I usually just tell them, like, just hit the basics on the machines. Like, it's hard to screw those up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to get you a foundation of strength, and then you can start thinking about free weights and stuff like that.
Right.
But I was surprised to hear, like, a lot of new people are super self-conscious about going into a gym.
And I think what happens when they go into the gym, psychologically speaking, is now they're being super honest with what their issues are. and they think everybody's got this telescope on.
Self-consciousness kind of goes over.
Oh, it has to, because
there's
then all
mirrors everywhere. It's like, there I am again. Look at me on this angle. I look like shit here too.
Yeah,
I'm just pretty much crap right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably why, I think that they go in for the first time with the focus of trying to repair their shortcomings, so then those things come into view super vivid, and that's got to be rough.
It's a bit of a microscope, and then you got all these other microscopes around you, and it can get overblown and become an anxiety when, like you said, that's the way we view people. We're happy to see people in there killing it and putting the effort.
Usually if somebody's got that outlook, that means they're judging everybody else that way. So you need to get over that, because if you're looking at people and judging their value that way, and you're worried about somebody doing that to yourself, chances are you're doing that.
It's like you said with tetherball. You got to be ready to lose a lot.
You got to be ready to lose. That's why,
straight up.
Yeah, arm wrestling, the same thing.
Lose, and then maybe win, and then hey, it's
all about learning.
It's learning.
I think we judge people that look like they're at the gym regularly more than people that don't.
Oh, for using PEDs?
No, just that. Or like somebody that's like just ripped that has bad form, or like, what's going on here? That makes no sense. But so we might pay more attention to someone like in that case than.
Yeah, they might be doing a weird word. I remember
they might be like on a bulk and getting into some different failures, and you're like, oh, he knows his body. He's doing something particular here, and that's maybe not good for me, but he obviously knows what he's doing, and that's something in bodybuilding that you can't just like lay across the board, because like there are some techniques that some people can do and other people cannot do. And there's just different bodies and different recovery rates and different genetics involved for everybody. So, and you get to that high level, some of those things, some form things, like when you're there's horses for courses, and that's when you get to like an experienced level.
I personally remember hitting a plateau and getting super frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna experience the heaviest failure I can do. And we lasted a week, and we just would do like 3 or 4 reps, and the form would just break down on the first rep because the weight's so heavy. And you're like, you know what, this is wrong, but I'm just chesting this out, see if I can break through this plateau. And everybody look at you like, that's probably the worst form I've ever seen. What is this guy doing? Is he going to kill himself? It's like, no, I'm just trying something new out. Not for long. I'm going to see if this works. And that's what happens in the gym. You do get desperate, and you do want to try different things. Because when you're at that high level, you get 1 pound of muscle a year, and you need to keep it interesting.
Yeah, you got to change
sometimes you got to change
sometimes it doesn't work.
And sometimes, many times it doesn't work.
Sometimes you snap
going
city.
A completely opposite, like we've been doing more sort of CrossFit stuff to get warmed up, like single leg box squats, stuff that doesn't seem very fun, but it's actually activating your brain, because now and that's why I understand why some guys will migrate into the CrossFit zone
or calisthenics,
because they're trying to connect with their body in a different way. So they've learned salsa, now they want to learn merengue, or they want to learn a different dancing style that's employing a lot of the same technique. And it's always interesting when you can challenge yourself. So when you're balancing on one foot and you're going down and up, and you have to like try and organize your leg to work that way, it all of a sudden becomes a challenge. Whereas pushing weight and going into failure with an exercise you've mastered, sometimes you'll hit a plateau, and just doing that over and over again can lead to frustration. You're just like, let's change it up. Yeah. You need to change it up sometimes.
Yeah, we changed our splits up. Right now we've been doing a full body split Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we came out of your typical bro split when we hit like 32. We noticed recovery. We were chronic overtrainers. John and I would just kill, and not fill it up. And started studying some Mike Menzer, and he was very big about hitting the body with something it hadn't, a novel, what do you call it, novel?
He's famous for the HIT method, which is not what everyone thinks it is now. It's an older method where you have a warm-up, and you have maybe a second warm-up, and you hit that muscle group as hard as you can. And then he's huge about recovery.
It's all about adaptation. So you have to hit your body with something it's never experienced before.
And he usually is in the form of failure. So like that's why
one set taken to real failure, and then you're not doing a bunch of volume on top of that, because his idea was about recovering. He used the example of digging a hole. And if you just dig a hole and you don't fill it up, we want to fill it up more. Our idea is we dig a hole and then we fill it up with more dirt, not just the same, because we want to get bigger. So if we're not recovering, if we just keep digging a hole and not filling it up, you're not going to see gains. And so we stopped. We went to 3 days a week. And before this full body, we were doing the bro split 3 days a week. So it was legs, back, and chest, and then we would recover. And the rest of the week, it's hard to train every day. everyone's different. Like we used to do the 5-6 days, but now we have work on those other days, and we are literally recovering. I couldn't go into the gym after that. We train like 2.5 hours very intensely, and that's a different training method. You train for like 40 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, I do 6 days a week, and it's about 45 minutes to an hour.
Right. So if you take the time and you add them up, 2.5 hours, 3 days a week versus, 45 to an hour, 6 days a week, that's almost the same amount of time training. It's just a different style of training. So we change things up. And as a bodybuilder, you're going to find different lifestyles. Like our lifestyle, we ended up working a lot. We're just like, we cannot go to the gym every day. Like we have too much stuff to do, and we got to find a way to work around this. So it was scary. It was like, oh my God, we're gonna lose everything doing this. We're not gonna, and it's also something we love to do.
Are you making progress, or what? What's your goal?
I'd say my legs have grown in strength because we're hitting them twice a week. I think I like this split better just because
stronger.
Well, yeah,
overall.
I think we've gotten stronger. I haven't seen it again. I haven't seen any huge changes in my body for the past, I'd say 2-3 years. Nothing's huge of a change. You'll be more comfortable with certain body parts, like my legs. I feel more comfortable with them just because I'm doing them more often. I think they're stronger because I'm more able to connect with the muscle. I don't see them. They have grown. They have grown a little bit, but that's been fun because my legs have been difficult for me. My feet, like connecting with my feet, my
strong
toes,
feet, claws.
Yeah, that has been great because I can really connect with that part of my body. It's interesting to me now that when you get really connected to a body part, you kind of forget it. It's kind of like when you practice a guitar part, you begin to deconstruct it in its smallest elements, and then eventually it becomes one thing. It chunks it out, and at that point, you're not really thinking it through. It's become a part of your muscle memory. And so I've noticed when I'm careful with that, I'll actually keep myself deconstructing those parts because there'll come a point where your brain needs to relearn all that stuff because you've sort of put it on the back burner of how much focus you're putting on it. And so legs were that way for me, where I'd done the same workout with legs for a long time. So going to the hack squat, feeling my feet, doing it twice a week, that was awesome for me. It was a lot more fun to do legs now and challenge myself.
Yeah, you have to change things.
As far as this, it's funny because this change was for the other stuff in my life. So I had more time to work, like Joe was saying. Going to the gym, the commute time, all that, it just ended up taking more time out of my day every day. I'd rather just go there once. And it takes me a long time to get focused too.
Right, because some people are cold. There's this funny, we use this, we used to have a book full of like old Southern tales.
Like aphorisms.
Yeah, they were really cool. And we would read this on the shitter. And there was this guy, it's called the Collared Donkey. And he bought this donkey, and he got it for a good price because it was cold collared. And the cold collared donkey is slow to warm up, but extremely strong once he's warmed up. So he doesn't want to pull a log at first, but once he gets pulling it, after a while, he pulls and pulls and pulls. And then there's the hot collared donkey, which he's ready to go, like right off the bat. He's like, let's pull this log. But then he tapers off.
That's me.
Then at the end, he's like,
Really?
I'm done.
So
John
you got
and more your cold collar.
I'm not in the gym until I've been there for an hour. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. I finally got here.
So that works for me, and
Right.
then I'm really able to focus. And the next day I don't have that break in my time because I like to get into something and stay in it. I do not like interruptions. Because I'm a cold collar donkey. I get interrupted, I go back to A, and I got to get back to C, and that takes time. So I like to be immersed in my work. I like to have deprivation from the world, get the blinders on and focus. So that to me worked a lot better. I had my Tuesdays and Thursdays where I could chunk out massive blocks of time for other areas in my life that needed focus without having the gym in there. So that's what I did see as a change. How about you with yours? I know you've changed your time during the day. You've been going from mornings to now evenings, right?
Yeah. I do a split, like basically push pull legs twice a week. So and then it's like 45 minutes, and it's worked out great for me.
Has the time during the day? Because I remember you going in
I
the
used to
morning.
I used to go midday,
Midday.
and now I go in the evening, because I was doing the sauna in the evening as well. So I was actually driving to the gym twice a day.
Right.
And now I do them both in the evening, sauna and gym.
To get more time.
And I like it. It's great. And I was doing legs actually 3 days a week.
Wow.
In 2021, I was trying to put on mass. So I went from 170 pounds to like 190. Just eating like a psycho. Where I'll say it's fun gaining weight because you know you can kind of just eat what you want, you know, as long as you're getting enough protein in.
Just be a savage.
It was yeah, it was fun here. I'm still trying. So
I hated eating those 6 meals a day, bro.
I don't do
the
it that
farts,
way.
Well, I
the
think- I don't-
lack
I
of
think-
digestion. I was just like, oh my
I eat,
god,
like,
it was
3
harder than
meals a day.
training. John and I wanted to
But
die.
you weren't eating all healthy food. Joe and I were eating like all really healthy food.
It was
It's
like
hard to
salmon
eat
and
that
brown
volume of
rice
food.
and like,
Yeah, I don't
oh
eat
my
that
god, the
healthy.
volume of food was just like, oh my.
So when you're
crying.
bulking, you're just eating whatever.
I mean, I definitely, I wouldn't say whatever. During the week, I eat pretty strict. It's kind of like my proteins are mostly eggs and chicken and pork tenderloins.
But back when you were bulking your legs.
No, that I'm still bulking.
Oh.
I'm doing the same thing
Just
now. I'm
eating
trying
like-
to get to 200 pounds now. So I've
Where
gone
are
from
you at?
190. I'm at 195 now. So I'm trying to get to 200.
Right on, Mike.
Yeah, it's been cool because it's been
And
working.
you stay relatively lean too. Most
Yeah.
of it's
yeah,
like
because
muscle.
I still my jeans.
No kidding.
My clothes are all super tight after losing or gaining 25 pounds, but like tight in the right areas.
Right.
Like I still got a 30-inch waist somehow.
Dude, at the
Yeah.
sauna, your back's like very lean. Mike, I
Yeah.
carry a lot on my love handles. Like
Yeah.
those suckers don't go. Thankfully, I don't carry much on my abs or anything. But
Everybody stores fat in different,
in different places.
Yeah.
But I was surprised because when we went on our bulk, we got 200 pounds, strong. But when we went on another bulk, and then we realized, okay, these are diminishing returns. I'm just getting fat. Like I'm getting the muscle, but it's probably going to be like 1 or 2 pounds a year at this point, and I don't have to go on this huge surplus of calories to get those.
You have to think
those
it
gains.
doesn't make sense because when you're eating so much, you're getting those wicked farts. Your body's like saying, hey, I can't digest this food, basically. You're stressing yourself from the inside and outside. How is it going to really put more muscle on? You need to understand that your body needs that time to recover.
And some people
So-
can, and you have to go onto a bulk a number of times and try it to find out, okay, am I just getting fat or am I putting on muscle? Because it's hard to get lean again. It takes a good amount of time if you don't want to lose muscle and you do it right. It's 2 pounds a week if you're doing it conservatively.
When I was 200
you know?
pounds, I honestly hated it. I would try and tie my
Sleep
shoes,
apnea.
and I would be like, God, this hurts. Like I'm down
You
here.
guys
and
must have
my head.
I'm
would, like,
super
pop.
happy with my weight
Really?
now. Like that's why I'm going to continue to try to get.
Well, we got small bones too, so I'd feel the weight in my ankles. I would
Yeah?
feel stuff like that change. I'd go for a run, and I'd be like, "This is brutal. I feel like a tank out here." You know, it's like I preferred being at a lighter weight. I felt more nimble. My body was more sort of athletic. It was more athletic.
You felt better.
I wasn't as strong. When I had that weight, I could push like 3 plates like nothing. I was like a strong beast. It felt
Nice.
good in the gym. When it came time to go do stuff and like play with the kids or something, dude, I felt like a tank. I didn't know what I was doing.
Some people's digestive tracts are different. Like obviously you have one that can take the abuse, you know. For someone like me, it was just like my body was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And it's important to taper into bulks and to taper into these things. Like don't just start eating 1,000 excess calories tomorrow.
right.
You know, scale in with an extra 200, you know, every week, you know, or every other week. You know, be slow and allow
I
your
do it 3
digestive
days a
tract
week.
to adapt, you know, because it's not just going to enjoy being
Yeah.
slammed with extra
I slam it
calories.
3 days. I slam it on the weekend, and then during the week I eat probably at maintenance, maybe a little bit under. And that's been my cycle, and it's been working.
Main gaining.
It's basically like there's
Man,
no
man.
real strategy. Like I didn't consciously come up with a strategy. It's like this works for my schedule and how I want to do
All
life.
that hard work, man. You
And it just
finally
worked.
tuned it up. You
It's
finally
hard work.
tuned
You're
it
right.
in. It's like that's what works and then what doesn't. It's a checklist. It's the work. Like I have notes and notes in my phone going through all my diets, all the data, you know. And even if you don't do that subconsciously, I recommend people do that. You guys should put data down. That's the way you're going to progress at the end of the day. You need to know. It does become a number.
And I tracked everything with the Whoop band, which was awesome.
So you
like,
had
just-
that.
That thing is great, and I don't use it anymore because I like after so long using it, you kind of know where you're at. It's like I know my days so well that I'm like I probably burned this many calories. I can tell I slept this well. Like you start to not need it to tell you those things.
See, there's some things that I agree with, and like that, I recommend people, like, if you do get to that level, that's great. You're going to end up coming back to it. Like, I don't ever stop weighing my food. You know, I'm pretty sure I know instinctually a lot of, like, what 200 grams of rice looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or like 150 grams of chicken, whatever.
I think people have an issue with that practice point. So if I practice with the scale and I stop using the scale, I'm going to slowly get worse and worse.
Yes.
At weighing that food.
Yeah.
So you need to come back to those things that are going to tell you where you're at.
I don't think I've ever weighed my food before.
Really?
Well, you're very instinctual, you know, and that's a cool thing.
But it's different.
Some bodybuilders are.
If I was down at when I was at 170 pounds, like I had to be way more strict with my food. Otherwise, I'll just gain weight in 2 seconds. I'd like look at donuts and I'd gain weight. Now it's just like I can't eat enough.
That's awesome because you're not getting fat, so that's like incredible. You're doing it right. There's Dennis Wolf. Have you guys ever heard of him? He's a German bodybuilder.
Big dude.
He was huge, and he had a great career. Ended up getting a bone spur in his cervical spine, which did not allow him to train at the intensity that it took to be at Olympia status. So he bowed out early on. Had a surgery, got some bad advice, kind of like Ronnie Coleman.
Poor thing.
But
sucks.
he had a couple trainers before and some good ones, really good ones. And he ditched them and he started winning his Olympias when he trained himself, coached himself, because he was very instinctual. You know, he could feel his body. That dialogue between his body was very strong. And he was good, and he was when he stopped with the coaches, he actually started winning. And some people do really well with coaches, but some people, if you have a strong dialogue and if you're very nerdy, you know, you love the sport, you love the dieting, you're very into it.
Well, it's
I think
like
you
you're
can coach
asking
yourself
better.
best.
Yeah.
That's not to say you won't have a coach at some point in your life or taking information. You absolutely will be if you're that type of person, because you're a nerd. You're obsessed with knowledge and how to get better. You're going to be integrating these new things into your life continually. But if you have that strong dialogue with your body, you know, there's a point to where you're gonna, if you start listening to it and go down those paths, you're gonna find some amazing progress. I think that's kind of where you're at right now.
That's the best return on investment you end up getting. Because in older age, you're gonna have to know what you can eat, what things you can lift, and if you've done that when you're young, man, you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
you can be that 70-year-old who's been talking to his body for the past 40 years.
I think that's the point. Is like, you know, guys in church, they don't have that dialogue going on with their body. They don't know how bad they feel. They don't know how good they can feel, you know.
Well,
and
look at how they protected the temple in the Old Testament. It was a very, very beautiful place. They took care of it. They put time and effort into every single room. There was purpose in every single room. It was a very, very reverenced place, and so we should treat our bodies in the same way. Shouldn't be an afterthought. You shouldn't be thinking, well, I have to sacrifice for my family. Just get rid of the excuses and do a little bit every day. Don't have to go straight into training, 6 days a week, but try your best to get something out. Encourage your wife to do it with you, or your husband to do it with you. If it's
go on
15
walks
minutes a day for
just
a walk,
yeah, man.
And then slowly scale up to something you can
or ask
do.
someone. Like, I love when people ask me for advice or help with like training. Like, I'm here to help.
Love it.
Ask your friends that hit the gym every day.
That's true, man.
And
those people
they'll take you with you. I guarantee it.
They love to share information. I mean, even guys who aren't believers, people are just there. If you go and ask and you admire a physique or somebody seems like they know what they're doing, they love to share.
Man, I'll tell you, the biggest dude in there, the most intimidating guy, if you go up to him and just say, hey, if you come up with a genuine question, that's coming from an authentic place, they'll do 9 times out of 10, unless he's like having a horrible day or something, this would be an open book. Be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. What can I do to help you? Like, it's really beautiful. I have, and most of the times when I didn't want to go, it was just me being intimidated by this guy's incredible physique, or like he wouldn't want to talk to me, or I'd be annoying, But if you come up with a good question, that you really want an answer to, and you're going to someone that looks like they know what they're talking about, usually the response will be one of a good nature, of someone saying, yeah,
you're basically giving them a compliment by going up to them and asking them.
Yeah.
You're saying you look like you know what you're doing.
It's
I don't.
You should
I love
say
when
that.
people ask me questions.
I have no idea what I'm
You
doing.
should say that if that's the way you feel. Just
Yeah,
be
Mike's
honest
great
with
at
it.
that. Mike, you helped me kind of like do that with some guys. You're like, I talked to this one guy and he's just a truck. He told me he was eating like 5K calories a day and all this stuff. I was like, that's so cool, Mike. Like,
yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's eating like it's like 500 grams of protein a day.
My God.
He didn't really. I think it was like 5,000 to 6,000 calories.
How much was he weighing?
I don't know. He's a big dude. I have no idea.
It's a lot of calories, a lot of protein.
Yeah.
Well, that's so cool, and we could talk about this stuff till the cows come home. But I think that in closing, the idea for the Iron Disciples is we embrace all men's forms of discipline as long as you're applying yourself. It doesn't always have to be the gym, but one thing that must be present in your life is a respect for the temple God gave you. If you're putting that on the back burner and you're making up excuses of why you can't go to the gym or just go on a 30-minute walk, get real with yourself. There's an excuse there. You don't really want to square up to the fact that you're as bad as you are, and you can feel so much better. And so we want to encourage men to feel better so they can be better providers for their family and feel more confident. They can please their wife in the bedroom a lot better. They can be confident and the men that God created him to be. You know, if Adam's in the garden, he's eating these fruits that God gave him, he's going to look good. So let's eat the things that God gave us and pay attention to our bodies so we can better serve. I guess that's the goal, so we can better serve.
Yeah, that's it.
And enjoy going maybe like back into your childhood. If you like baseball, go get your friends, play baseball. That's all good. You don't have to go to the gym.
I cut all my weight rollerblading.
There you go. Right, it's how it began for you.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So, and it's incredibly rewarding.
I want to say we are going to have some guests as well in the future that are going to be able to share some real knowledge with you guys, and get more into the fitness a little bit here from those professional perspectives. Because in our group we have some very knowledgeable men in different areas of discipline, taken to an extremely high level with a lot to share. And I know you guys might be into CrossFit, you might be into calisthenics, you might be into hardcore bodybuilding, you might be into natural bodybuilding. Whatever those disciplines are, hopefully we will be able to have some guests on to elaborate deeply into some of these things and share their testimony of how Christ falls in line with these disciplines and how they affect in a positive way both disciplines.
I can't wait to hear that one. That sounds like fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Anything else on you guys' minds in clothing?
I think we're good to go.
Awesome. That was a fun one, guys. It's been a while since we could just kind of sit here and jam, talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Forever.
Forever.
All right.
Thank you, God, so much for this good conversation today. Lord, as we think about the temple you've given us as our body, Lord, I just pray that we would respect it and have reverence for it, Lord, that we would consider physical fitness as something important in our lives, Lord. Thank you for these two brothers here of mine and their hearts for you, Lord. And I pray that you would bless this conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.